Hey, D. Grant Smith here with you, and I wanted to just share with you a perspective and a thought that I had the other day. I was in my car and I was riding around with my hat on like this, and I suddenly had this memory of being a little kid, and I think I was at a baseball game, and I saw some guys walking around with their hats on backwards. And I grew up in the deep South, fairly conservative family, and I think I'd seen people with their hats on backwards, but I never tried to wear my hat backwards before. And I was with my parents, I think, and I thought it looked cool. I turned my hat around backwards and I put it on backwards, and my dad was like, "Turn your hat back around. It's not made to be worn backwards. You need to wear it the way it was meant to be worn." And I was like, "Sorry, Dad," and turned it back around like this, and I always wore my hat like this, and I was always nervous about turning it around backwards because from that moment, was kind of given this impression that if you turn your hat around backwards, you're doing something wrong, or you're a deviant of some kind, or you're a bad person, or whatever. And the culture, family dynamic that I lived in as a young person, young being like a little kid, all the way up through teenage years or whatever. This if there was ever like somebody that was doing something violent, or the whole bad boy mentality, that was somebody who was wearing their hat backwards, and that was an indication of like their moral character or something. Anyways, I remembered as I'm driving around with my hat looking like this, just this little flash of a memory, like, hey, remember when this was taboo? And I was nervous about, dressing like this around my parents because I thought they were going to get upset with me. And it just occurred to me that, like, the way you wear anything has nothing to do with your character, really. It has to do with your preferences. It has to do with just the way you feel like dressing. So what difference does it make if I wear my hat like this, or I like this, or whatever? I mean, this does not make me a negative person. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me a good person. It doesn't make me an awesome person. I make me an awesome person. I make me a good person. I make me me. You make you you. How you wear your hats or your shirts or your anything has nothing to do with your character. What has to do with your character is the way that you see yourself, and the way that you present yourself to others, and the way that you feel about yourself. And here's the big thing that I really wanted to share with you. When we can be aware of the judgments that we have about ourselves, and the judgments that we're making unconsciously or subconsciously about other people based on any number of things, but especially these little trivial things like the way somebody dresses, or whether their hat's on right this way or backwards, or becoming aware of that and then addressing that is a very important thing, because judgments don't produce positive fruit. They produce criticism, and they produce antagonism, and they produce things that don't feel good and hear when you receive them. So why give something to someone else, even if you're not saying it to them, but you're doing it with your thoughts? Why do that towards someone else that you know doesn't feel good to you? Instead, be aware of what your thoughts are. And if you're having judgments against somebody else, chances are you're also having those same judgments against you in some form or fashion. Judgment never feels good. We weren't sent here or created to judge. We were created to love. So instead of operating from this place where you're going to be condescending or judgmental against anybody based on the way that they dress, whether their hat's on the right way or not, my encouragement to you is, number one, be aware and be mindful of your thoughts and your beliefs and your attitudes towards other people, because that's a reflection of the way that you see yourself. Number two, know that your character and who you are, and anybody else and who they are a matter of themselves, and they're a matter of yourself, for you being in charge of you, them being in charge of them. And the character of you is your choice. And it has nothing to do with the way that you dress on the outside. It has everything to do with the way that you feel and what you believe on the inside. That's growth farming. That's tending your inner garden of your heart and your mind and cultivating love from within so that love is what comes out. And also, as you cultivate love from within, you will become more aware of things and patterns in your life that are not loving. And it's up to you to tend your inner garden to make sure that these subtle little judgments that you have are eradicated and taken out so that you can replace them with compassion and love and kindness and empathy and generosity. And as you do this, you transform yourself into the best version of you. You also heal and transform your relationships, all of them, because the more that you love you, the more that love comes into your life. If you want help in how to do this, I'd love to have a conversation with you. My email address, best way to get a hold of me, dgrant, D-G-R-A-N-T, at dgrantsmith.com. Or if you want to get insights and direction and guidance, but you don't necessarily want to go down the, let's have a Zoom call conversation thing, that's fine. I encourage you to visit my book site, which is besolidbook.com. I put a link down below. It's basically the guidebook for how to turn your whole idea of yourself around. Learn how to love yourself, even if you're coming from a place of absolute and total brokenness, which is where my story began, dealing with heartbreak and divorce. And going from that state into a place of learning what love is and learning how to give myself that love to completely change the way that I saw myself so that I stopped thinking that my answers and the desire and the love that I wanted, or seeking validation, which is something I used to really struggle with, was something that was going to make me happy. Instead, I learned what love is. So I learned how to give myself that love. I learned how to stop judging and critiquing myself, and instead, how to give myself grace and accept me as I am. If you want to know how to do that, I invite you to check out the Be Solid book. I love you, I believe in you, and I'll see you soon.